Well, I just want to say good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Constance Taylor, and I am so proud to serve on the board of directors for Homeworks. In my professional life, I work for Ameren. I'm the director of community engagement and impact, and that is really an area where we focus on building partnerships that support stronger and more connected communities. And that whole aspect is what really drew me to Homeworks several years ago. The belief that when we invest in children and in the relationship between families and schools, we give children their strongest foundation for success. So, for those of you all who may not already know, at Homeworks, we believe the two most powerful forces in a child's life are their families and their teacher. And when those forces work together as partners, children don't just do better in school, they grow more confident, resilient, and connected to a community that absolutely believes in them. So that connection does not happen just by accident. It takes intention, it takes trust and support. And that's where Homeworks comes in. Through our evidence based family dinners, home visits, and parent teacher workshops, we help schools build long and lasting partnerships with families. We provide coaching, we provide the training, planning, and resources to teachers that help strong intentions grow into trusted partnerships that change lives. So tonight, I'm gonna talk very little after this, I promise you. But tonight, you're gonna hear from some of our amazing families, two parents that are gonna talk about their time with Homeworks, raising children, connecting with schools, really great information. But before we get into hearing from our parents, I am really excited to introduce you to someone who's just beginning her journey with Homeworks and who brings a fresh energy and vision to this work. Ashli Florek just joined us as our new CEO in April, about 2 weeks ago. And in a few weeks, she's already connecting with schools and staff and listening and learning and dreaming right alongside us. Tonight is going to be a chance for you to hear directly from Ashli as she shares what drew her to Homeworks and her hopes for the future. So, just a little bit about Ashli before she comes on and does some sharing. Ashli's journey begins in early childhood education, where home visits taught her something powerful. And that's strong, trusting relationships between families and teachers create the conditions for deep learning and lasting growth. That belief has guided her ever since. Over the last decade, Ashli has brought the same clarity and conviction to the ed tech world, helping mission-driven education companies grow in ways that center people, relationships, and real results. She's excited to bring that same focus to Homeworks, building on our strong foundation, deepening the impact of family engagement in schools. Welcome, Ashli.
Wonderful. Thank you, Constance, and good evening, everyone. I am so honored to be a part of Homeworks, and I'm excited about the work ahead. In my time here already, I've seen the deep care, passion, and commitment that drives this organization from our teachers, families, board members, and supporters. I'm looking forward to all the ways we can continue strengthening the partnership between families and schools and ensuring that every child feels seen, supported, and set up for success. Thanks for taking part of your evening tonight to be here with us.
Thank you so much, Ashli. Just a couple of quick questions. I'm curious, what is it that drew you to Homeworks and to the work that we do?
Yes, great question. When I first learned about Homeworks, what really stood out to me was how aligned it felt with what I've always believed, that when families and teachers work together, kids thrive. I'd spent years in education, first as a classroom pre-K teacher, and then helping schools build stronger systems. But the thing that's always stayed with me is how transformational it is when relationships and connections are strong. From my very first conversations with this team, I felt that spark. The stories, the outcomes, the values, it all felt rooted in something real and deeply human, which felt distinct among other education interventions. And I knew I wanted to be part of that, building what comes next.
That's awesome. Wonderful, wonderful. So I'm curious, 2 short weeks, probably lots happening already. What stood out the most so far?
Yes. So what's really stood out is how consistent and meaningful the impact is, both in the data and in the lived experiences I've heard from families and teachers. Students whose families participate in homeworks are meeting their academic growth goals in reading and math at significantly higher rates than their peers. And that's powerful. But it's not just about performance, it's about connection and collaboration, which I'm excited for everyone to hear more about soon. And I think what really moved me the most was seeing that 100% of teachers, 100% reported that visits helped strengthen their relationships with families. And families that participated in homeworks reported 80% higher rates of confidence in supporting their child's learning at home. That trickles down to how students experience the program too, because from a child's point of view, there's nothing more powerful than knowing that the two most trusted anchors in your life, your family and your teachers, are working together and they want to see you succeed. So that community of love and care around a child's education is game changing. I saw that when I was doing home visits myself early in my career, and I'm excited to continue that work forward here at Homeworks as we look ahead as well.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Those results are so powerful, and we want to keep growing that impact um,
Yes,
in terms of greater and better performance and reaching more people so that more families can have this experience. So
definitely.
thank you so much. We are going to turn it over to our and get into our parents portion of this discussion. And what I want to be able to say is that if you have a question or a comment, please put it in the chat. We do have someone monitoring the chat, and we'll be able to get to those questions definitely towards the end, but we'll just see how the conversation goes. If the question is like really timely with the comment that a parent is making, we'll definitely jump in there. But I am so excited to be able to bring up our parent stars, our parent participants. And I'm going to ask you each to introduce yourselves. Tell us about your child that's at the school or your children that's at the school. And tell us about how you are involved with homework. So let's start with Satoria and then we'll go to Rihanna.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Satoria Littleton. My children go to Fairview. I actually have 5 children who are at Fairview, all boys. They are in sixth, fifth, third, first, and pre-K. And let's see, homeworks. So I actually have a dual role. I am a parent, but I also work in the school district. So last year I worked in at Fairview when homeworks was first introduced. And so I was excited about the program. However, I will say I didn't think that it was going to work just because there's always this taboo invisible line drawn in the sand between the household and the teachers. And so I was quickly proven wrong. And I'll definitely go into that, but that's initially how I was introduced to homeworks.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. Rayana,
Yes, ma'am.
yes, tell us about, give us your name, tell us about your children, the children that you have in school, and how you got involved with homeworks.
So my name is Brianna Lee. I have 3 children that is at Confluence Academy. They're pre-K, kindergarten, and second grade. I got started through Homeworks program from their school. I mean, I've enjoyed the program. I benefited with my children as well with the home visits, and even in school, it's just me and the teachers, we really have a bond and we do work better for our children. It's a team effort. And I do see the difference in my children's growth and education wise.
Oh,
So
wow.
I love it.
That's exciting. And hold on to that because I want to be able to expand on some of the specific areas of growth that you're seeing with your children and how that's coming about. But something that Satoria mentioned, that whole comfort level, our homes are very sacred to us, and
Mhm.
being able to get a comfort level of being able to open your doors to your child's teacher. I'm curious, what was that like? What is it that made you feel comfortable to participate in the program?
I am. I'm very comfortable with letting each one of my children's teacher come to the home because that builds a relationship for not just my children but for me, and we just have that bond. And my children, like, they see that I'm working with the teacher, so it's like they are more in line.
Mm,
They perform better. It's like they're trying to be the best for both of us, the teacher and the parent. Like,
that's a powerful image.
yeah. And I seen, like, my son, he reads way better. And I just see the growth in their education. It's just really simple things. Like the relationship and their education is better.
That's excellent. Excellent. Going to come back to you in just a second to get some more about what kind of things are happening on that home visit that you think really play into that. But Satori, I want to ask you too, what is it that, how did that comfort level come about?
So for me, village is a really big thing. I don't believe that I can help, my child's behavior or with their grades at school if I have no knowledge of what's happening in the classroom. They're with these teachers 8 hours of the day. And so when they get home, I get their report, but I don't get the teacher's report.
Mm,
And I think that when it came down to the teacher showing up in a household, it was like, whoa, I better get myself together. So, it really put them um in a mindset of where everybody's watching, everybody's, holding me accountable to what I need to be doing. And so I think that whole village mentality, beyond me feeling like, well, I don't want my coworkers here, but I had to put that to the side because these are my children. This is
mm,
their education. I need them to understand that, grades and behavior is a must in my household. The teacher understands that, and we are in cahoots with each other. We're a united front. And when they saw that, things like literally took off. They started getting better. My oldest son, in the past, he's had behavior problems. Since we started the home visits, it's like, okay, well, I know she's going to call my mom or she might pop up at my house. It's not just showing up to the parent teacher conferences, which are, 15 minutes
mm,
with the teacher. And it's not always the best impression because sometimes you might be on the defense about your child. Like, you never told me any of that.
mm.
And so to be able to get to know your child's teacher outside of that environment where they're not just talking about school, they're actually here learning about their, what they have hanging up on their walls in their room. And, it actually gives the teacher, coming from that perspective, my other perspective, it gave me more insight as to why this child might behave the way they do. And so that was I really think this was a good move for Fairview for
Excellent,
sure.
excellent, great insights. And then just that whole reaction of when your children, the students see the teacher walking into the household, and that first reaction. I love how you described
Yeah.
oh, my teacher's here in my house. So let's talk about that visit at home. And there are other engagements too that we'll talk about in terms of the family dinners and the teacher parent workshops. But Brianna, describe a visit, describe some of the things that have happened during that home visit, something that really stands out to you.
Yes, ma'am. So I was lucky enough to have all three teachers to come at one time. and it was just like a party for us. The teachers came in, we did homework together, me, the teachers, and my babies, and we talked about things that they can improve in, their goals. It was just like basically just inviting them to our home and being comfortable, expressing what's going on, how to better them in their education, also having that bond. I
Wow.
mean, I really love their teachers. I tell them that all the time. And it also helped me have a better open communication with them throughout the school year.
So tell me about that in terms of you really love the teachers.
Yes.
Do you think that would have happened with or without the home visit, or did that home visit really kind of seal that?
For me personally, it's
Hmm.
me because I'm not a very outspoken person. And if I was to only meet the teachers through parent teacher conference, I might not have had that relationship with them. So it gave me the opportunity to get closer to the teachers, to
Mm,
build that bond. Because, like I said, I am very chilled. So it gave me that chance to meet them on a different level.
fantastic. And you all had it, I love your description that it's like a party at home. You talk about the joy of education, and you all were experiencing that all together.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, love it. So, Toria, describe a visit, an interaction for us, something that particularly stands out.
So my son, well, when he was in kindergarten, his teacher came, and actually this year she came as well. Um, so that was an exciting time. Now, one thing about it is that all the teachers did not sign up for homeworks, but I wish they had, just because of how the experience was. She went upstairs and he showed her everything on his wall. He pulled out all of it. He pulled out everything that he drew within the past month, just showing her, what he's interested in. They played with the little toy cars. It was just like, you know, now you're in my environment. And, I enjoy seeing that, not talking about grades, just kind of an unstructured time where you're intentional about getting to know that child. And that is, I think that goes a long way with not just the parent, because the child kind of responds in a way of like, you actually like me.
Mm,
you know, you're not just getting on my case, but you accept me for who I am. And so the interaction and the reports that he came home with were different after she started trying to get to know him better.
got it.
He didn't think of her as a human before then. He's just like my teacher, my teacher, my teacher. But I think it evolved to my friend who teaches me.
Oh, wow. That's
you
powerful.
know yeah, and that really, it touched me. It made me feel like, okay, well, this is a trusted environment. um you value my child. You see them for who they are, not just as a pupil. you know um it definitely brings comfort. um and like Rihanna said, it was like a party. Of course I had to cook and have some cupcakes out, but it's a good interaction to, just be able to get to know each other on a level outside of you're my student, I'm your teacher. It's just, we're just hanging out. We're just getting to know each other. This is what you like doing. Oh, okay. Well, let's talk about it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so it was really genuine.
I said it before, it's so powerful. And I think when I kicked the conversation off, we talked about being able to build children or support children and being more confident and being more
Hmm.
resilient. And it sounds like the interactions that both of you all are describing, it's just, I kind of can just see it with your description, and it just
Yeah.
brings happy chills that I'm like just loving that this connection is taking place. And we desire these connections because we want our students to perform well in school. We want them to perform well academically and get the supports that they need to be able to perform strong academically. Let's talk about that a little bit. Any specific examples that you can think of where, whether it was reading or whether it's math or whatever the subject, where you were able to see some different outcomes, some improvement possibly, because of this relationship.
I will say first and foremost behavior. Um, and like I said, that was because of the mentality of this is a village, and whatever she knows, I'm gonna know. Whatever I know, she's gonna know. And so, they tighten up. And within that, then it's like a trickle effect. It trickled into his reading. His reading got so much better. He asked more questions in class. Because I found that out at a conference. It's like he's asking more questions. I'm like, well, that's good. And, I didn't directly correlate it, but now I'm starting to understand how it fully affected him. Because a lot of kids, they don't raise their hand because they might feel like this is a dumb question. But to feel accepted by someone in that capacity, you're going to ask that question, and, you feel like you know them well enough to not put you down, or
Right.
or anything
Felt
like that.
safe. Felt safe.
Exactly. It definitely
Yeah.
built a safe environment for him. So I would say, with the behavior and the reading, that's where I saw improvement and asking questions in class.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Rayana, same
Yes, ma'am.
question.
For me, I will also have to agree with the reading. Um, not just the reading, but also being able to show leadership in their classroom,
Hmm.
especially in my kindergarten. They got different awards for leadership throughout this school year. And I'm like, whoa, yeah, I just in kindergarten and pre-K. And then, like I said earlier, I'm like more in the box and they're out of the box. And it's like, I guess with us having this relationship with our teacher is teaching them to be courageous.
Mm. Mm. You
That,
said teaching them to be, did you say courageous?
yes, ma'am,
Yeah.
be
Okay.
be a leader. Um, I just see them being stars, honestly, in their just in their everyday living.
Wow. That's gotta, how does that make you feel?
Honestly, that makes me a proud mother. It makes me look at myself like, why wasn't I that child? But I'm just grateful that my babies are that. And I embrace them to be that.
That's that's what we want. You want to be able to know that you're pouring into your children,
Yes.
so that they can be confident and be courageous. What do and that's a challenge for parents too now. I know as a parent, there were times where I just didn't know. I kind of lacked some confidence in some area. Has there been any connection to any of the activities, whether it's the home visits or the parent teacher workshops? Has any of that played into helping you to be more confident as a parent?
Um,
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Satori, and then Rihanna will come to you next.
Okay. So yes. And so this year I'm actually an activity coordinator. So I'm like a junior athletic director. which means my schedule is kind of all over the place. And so one thing that, I really kind of got down on myself about was having time in the evening for my children,
Mm.
just because my schedule started getting a little crazy. And so whenever there was a PTW, which the parent teacher workshop, I was excited about it because, I played a dual role. So not only am I going to work, but I'm also spending time with my children. This year, we did like a little sugar cubes igloo. And, I helped other kids with theirs, but I enjoyed and really it helped me feel better about just, having time for my kids because, I'm in your classroom, I'm doing your type of thing instead of just throwing you on a device or instead of, just giving you some coloring sheets. I'm doing something fun with you in your classroom. And um it forged a bonding moment. And so not only does homework forge the bonding with the teachers, but with the parents and their children. And so I think that's a big thing because, there's a lot of parents like me whose schedule might be all over the place, but, to be able to drop in their school and this is just purely spending time together, like
That's
that really made me feel good.
that's fantastic. So it's like every minute counts,
Yes, absolutely.
of it.
Blowing bubbles with them, just, it was
And
fun.
this was through the parent teacher workshop experience.
Yes. So some of the teachers had different stations set up. And so the sugar cube station with the clay, and we made igloos there. And then some, it was just like they'd come up with these creative science experiments or just anything. They'll find something um, to do. And so each classroom had something different going on. So we go from classroom to classroom. The last PTW was outside and we had cups stacked up in a pyramid. So I'm just like racing everybody, stacking the cups up. But it's such a organic experience to the point where you're not even like no one knows the science behind it. It just feels natural, and so I really enjoyed the PTWs because I'm like, I'm already in the district, I'm right here, I'm busy, but I have time for this.
It's the power of play, and learning through
Absolutely.
play. And it's really something special, I think, when your children get to see their family members, their parents smiling, enjoying
Yeah.
themselves, and like you said, the impact on that bond and that bonding that takes place through play, through learning in that environment. I really appreciate that description of the of your experience with PTW. Brianna, talk to us. How has this experience played into terms of supporting your confidence as a parent?
Well, I never participated in the in-school activities, but with the home visits, that's where I participate more at because I'm comfortable home.
Okay.
It do make me more confident in parenting. I mean, I have more than enough time with my children outside of school, but it just helped me building that relationship with my baby's teachers, honestly. It's just, that time
Yes,
since I'm always at home.
I, I get it. So from that relationship with the teachers, have you experienced or can you describe any things that you do now as far as some of the things that you've learned from the teachers or you've seen the teachers do that now you're doing?
Yes. So when they do come over, they do bring off like little activities for the children to do. I do those with them, and I keep in open communication with the teachers all the time just to see how the kids are doing If they need help with anything, I'm always asking the teacher, is there anything I can do to help you all?
Mm.
Because I know my babies are with them. So it's like, what can I do to help you?
That's big. Thank you for, extending yourself like that to that whole relationship. What can I do for you?
Yes,
Any examples of what you've been able to do or how you've responded?
yes. So my pre-K, um, she comes home with a monthly reading log, and my second grade, he's working on reading. And he's excelling in reading. And he's like, Mama, I'll read to my sister every night. I'm like, okay, great. Or we'll play with the cubes at home during our math, the pre-K and kindergartner. And it's just different activities we'll do together, just to keep that going. So when they're at school, they know they can do it here. If they excel it here, they doing good in school. It's just continuing the work so they can, show the progress at school.
Yes. Well, it sounds like your children enjoy going to school.
They That's my pre, especially the pre-K. She
Okay.
loves.
That's wonderful. That's so I mean, we talk about benefits in terms of homeworks and this whole interaction between families and teachers and students, helping with academics, helping with just life skills and I'm hearing you talk about how it's helping with bonding and all these other types of things. What do you wish more parents knew about homeworks, especially parents that maybe you've talked to folks and they're like, no, I'm not interested, or oh, I don't have time. What do you think? What do you wish other parents knew about homeworks? Satoria.
So I wish other parents knew that the teacher can meet you wherever you're comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Some parents, don't want you to come to their home. But say your child has a football game that day, they can show up to the football game. They can show up to the park, wherever the parent is comfortable. Of course, as long as it's outside of the school environment,
Right.
it doesn't, there's no pressure about that. And I think that flexibility um, is important because, a lot of parents will decline just off of feeling like, well, I don't want anyone in my house.
Mm,
But it's like we don't have to come to your house. And if you want, we could sit on a porch. Or if, we all know where you live already, but but if you want, we can just go down the street or take a walk wherever, So I think that they knew that, more. And I feel like they would get involved if they knew that.
great feedback. And, again, just being able to, like you said, meet people where they are.
Mm-hmm.
So not being comfortable in a home doesn't mean a no. It just means what is comfortable for you. So I love that. Brianna.
I don't have anything to say. I love what she said.
I
That,
heard you. Yeah, yeah. I can hear you co-signing what she was saying. Same type of thing then, right?
yes, ma'am.
Oh, wonderful. So you all have answered so many of the questions that I've had, and I haven't even looked hardly at my sheet of questions because I'm just enjoying this time and this conversation with you. So we talked about having parents get more involved. Let's talk about, what about teachers? Getting more teachers involved and being a part of this. What would you say to help encourage more teachers to say, yes, I want to be a homeworks teacher?
Mm.
Rihanna, you want to go first on this one?
For the teachers,
Yeah. Because you've been fortunate that you had three teachers at one time at your house. So it doesn't sound like there's an issue with getting teachers involved with you and with the grades that you're teachers, students are a part of, but that's another time commitment that teachers have to make. So just curious if there's any advice that you have for teachers.
Honestly, no, because all of my children's teachers were willing to meet with me in our home, and they all knew I was comfortable here.
Fantastic. Got it. Thank you. Satoria, any thoughts? Especially
Yes.
you're an
So I
educator
would
too.
say,
Very interesting.
yes. um, I think support staff should know that they can also get involved. A lot of times our kids lean on the support staff more than they do on their teacher. Um, and it's just that they can be a catalyst, for whatever in the classroom, whatever needs to take place in the classroom, just by saying, like if you can get to the point where you can reach that child, you'd be able to convince them to actually do their work, or convince them to raise their hand. So I think that's one thing, because when we say teachers, when I came in, when the program came to Fairview last year, I was a secretary. So I heard teachers, teachers, teachers. And even during this week, Teacher Appreciation Week, I'm like, I'm not included. And so I think, maybe changing the language to, school staff would help help more people get involved, and understanding that you don't have to be a teacher, because a lot of kids came to me when they were mad at their teacher. They come straight to the main office and come and talk to me, and we have those conversations. But I think also just for the teachers to know what the end result would be, and so for them to actually hear the testimonials, for them to actually see those testimonials, and see, just watch a child. And say, for instance, like I had a child in my class last year who, oh my goodness, he just gave me a run for my money. And now he's in your class this year and you're doing homeworks. That would show them, like, okay, well, this actually works. If we took real life testimonials, because within the four walls of the school, we all know how certain students are. And so we can say, remember this student and what he was doing last year, and look at what he's doing this year. And, we could definitely attribute that to homeworks, because the home environment is still the same. Everything else is still the same except this one variable. And so I think those real life experiences, those personal experiences, um, not to use them as guinea pigs, but to definitely show them, like, this is actually happening. This is a real thing.
Yeah, we continue to learn from experiences and then being able to share that. I really want to kind of jump back to what you said about, we talk about teachers and really needing to be able to be clear about, really use more inclusive language about that whole community that's really dedicated
Yes.
to teaching the whole child. And that comes from the classroom teacher, that comes from the support staff, that comes from throughout the school. So really, really thank you for pointing that out and sharing that, and just all the comments from both you, Satoria, and Rayana. You have been absolutely phenomenal in terms of what you shared. I've gotten a lot out of it. I'm going to turn to our audience and want to see what you have in the way of questions for Satoria, for Rayana, for the homework staff. And so we're going to open it up for questions, but I'm going to give you a little warning. If you think that, you're going to not necessarily say anything, you don't have to. We don't force that. But I am also curious, with all this great information and these insights that have been shared, what's something that you learned new? What's something that you didn't know before that you know now? And what did you get out of the call? So again, first, I really want you to focus on questions for our phenomenal panelists. But then also, if you would also just share something that you know now or something that you learned, that would be fantastic. And you can just raise your hand, and then Catherine, you can just call on folks.
Sounds good. We got Mark Harvey here.
Yes, I'm the superintendent of Boonville R1, and we've got a really strong homeworks program. But I want to commend these parents for speaking up and sharing what they've experienced and for their boldness in becoming involved in their child's education. We truly value that as public educators, and we need you, and we need to understand what you need from us to provide the best possible learning experience. And I think communication is always the best key. So kudos to both you moms. I appreciate it.
Yeah, kudos. Absolutely. Thank you, Mark.
All right, I'm scanning the crowd here. So if anybody, yes, Sarah.
So just want to say thank you. I have known about homeworks for a while, but just the joy that comes through with what you're sharing is remarkable. And while I thought I knew a lot, I didn't realize that you could meet other places in the home. In my mind, I just thought it was at home. And so for me, that's really a cool thing to know that you can think outside of the box and meet at a place that's comfortable for you. And if it's not your home, then that's really cool. So thank you, Satori, and thank you, Rihanna. I really appreciated learning that.
Fantastic. Thank you,
You're
Sarah.
welcome.
Thank you so much.
Dwayne?
Hello. Oh, did I come back? Oh, there I am.
No, you're here.
Hi. Yeah, both parents. Amazing stories. My question to you, for parents that know that you are a part of the program, and have you experienced like they ain't coming in my house and da 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 da, I can't have, how do you counter that as parents who have had success with it, and to help us with our dialogue to try to get teachers involved as well as parents involved?
Great. Satoria and Rihanna, any comments there?
So I believe that the parent should have the option on whether or not they want that specific teacher there. And I believe that there should be some type of flexibility around offering a teacher. You know, I can bring so and so, or if you want, we can meet alone. They may have a misunderstanding or misinterpretation of who that person is. But I think that just being able to meet with school personnel in general opens the door to that accountability taking place in a classroom. It doesn't necessarily have to be with that specific teacher, but sometimes what parents would do is vent about that teacher to you, and you can give insight, you know. And so at some point in time, they might come around to saying, okay, you know what, I will let this teacher over. But like I said, sometimes those parent-teacher conferences are not the best first impression. So you're already on a defense about who this person is and what they have to say about your child. But then, like I said, for someone else to stand in the gap and open up and say, well, maybe they wanted to make sure they got everything out within that 15 minutes. You know, something as small as that can give them insight as to why that teacher was acting that way. Or maybe you knew something about that teacher. Well, I'm sorry, that teacher just went through, something very personal. And, I think that communicating on a level of just being human is so important. But I would just, offer anybody, I say, you want this person, that person, anyone would do, just being flexible in that sense.
Great, thank you.
Great insights.
Welcome.
Brianna, any comments there?
Um,
As far as parents maybe, kind of saying, no, there's no way I would, open my doors, or no way that I would participate. What have you experienced that, and do you have any counter comments?
I never experienced that, but I generally feel like the parent should be more open to getting to know their child's teacher personally because it's better for the child
Mm,
and it'll better equip the teacher to help your child.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So anyone else question or want to share something that they learned that they did not know before?
I actually have a question that was sent in advance that I think is really interesting. And it's something that comes up a lot in conversations I have too. And it's around how, the school systems are so different now than they were 20, 30 years ago. The environment is just totally different. And then we have the pandemic, and then things like screen time and all of that. So I'm curious what you guys think about, what makes a program like this kind of work so necessary in the year 2025. So whoever wants to start on that one.
Well, I think like Rihanna has said the whole time is just getting to know your child's teacher to better equip you and to better equip them to, know what's going on in the classroom. No matter what year we're in, our kids are always going to be in school. And so, whether it's virtual or in person, we have to be able to communicate with the teacher as to how our children learn. I remember going from homeschool to put my kids in public school. I wrote a one-page letter to each of my kids' teacher, just letting them know their strengths and weaknesses. This was my way of like, I'm handing my child off to you, and I hope you take care of them. But that's how parents feel. Is that I'm giving you my child, and I want you to care enough to show up for them, to defend them if they need it, to nurture their growth. And when that teacher takes the extra step to come into the household, it definitely gives you, it definitely builds that trust. And it also gives you perspective into their lives because sometimes, you're like, how come you didn't grade this when you said you were going to grade it? Well, I'm sorry, my granddad just passed or whatever, the situation is. But also understanding that your child's teacher is a human, and so at the end of the day, I think those interactions bring us back to remembering that we're all human and that we all want to be cared for.
Yes, yes, yes. Giving finger snaps. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Great, again, great insights. Rihanna, any comments there?
Yes, ma'am. And I also have to add that it helps to build a village for your child because the neighborhoods are not the same either anymore. So we have the parents and the teachers coming together, or let me say the school staff, because it's not only the teachers, but the parents and school staff is working together, and this is the child's village. So just think of it that way. Also, they
Yeah,
they need us.
they absolutely need us. You're so right. And, trying to stand up and deliver on that alone is difficult. Being able to stand up and deliver that on that collectively with all of our strengths, with all of our talents, with all of our experiences, you have a much greater opportunity to produce strong results when we do it together. So thank you. Thank you for both of those comments and insights. Anyone else share anything that you didn't know before, something that you got out of this call? We have some board members, we have some homeworks team members and leaders on the call. Anyone else, please share something that that you got out of the call today. All right, Anna.
Hi. Well, this is a real joy because I actually partner with schools where both of these parents are from as a program leader. And one thing I would love for them to talk about, because both their schools have done really creative work with this, is we're talking about this village and the importance of community partnerships. And at our events and in our homeworks program, we've worked to have some community come in different ways through the events. And so I was just going to ask either parent if they could just talk a little bit about how they've seen community presence at any of our events.
Great question. Satoria or Rihanna, whoever wants to step up first on that one.
Yes. So I actually have seen our high school students show up to the events. And so, like, we'll have our cheer team show up, our superintendent has shown up, but the high school kids. So, when we do our PTWs, where Anna needs to do her slideshows for parents, or maybe they need to just have adult conversations, our high school kids will come in and swoop the little ones up, and they'll go elsewhere and go color, or bring them in gyms so they could just run wild. But I think that aspect is like, it's a big deal because the parents see that this is everybody contributing. This isn't just teachers and parents. This is support staff. This is high school students. These are middle school students. You have the cheer team here, the superintendent. So they see all of that, and it becomes, oh, and then the vendors as well. Local vendors come in, and they have a lot of information. Sometimes you just walk up to their table because they have stuff, but they actually have a lot of insightful information. So even the vendors are very relevant to the need of the community, and that I think is a big deal.
Awesome. Awesome. Rihanna, did you have anything you want to add there?
No, ma'am.
Well, you know what, I'm gonna turn it over to Catherine Brayton here in just a second. She's our Director of Development, to share a few words. But I just want to say again how grateful I am to you, Rayana, to you, Satoria, for being, as the gentleman from Boonville said, being bold and courageous in sharing your comments, your insights. I have a list of things that I learned that I hadn't thought about before, and that I'm looking forward to being able to go back and work with the Homeworks team. And we want to continue to raise the bar on what we deliver in terms of excellence and impact. These are some difficult and trying times that we're living in. You know, you turn on the news, and whatever side of the political party you know that there's a lot going on. And but when we can be able to unite around our children and making sure that they have a stable and safe environment to grow in, to learn in, and to be their best selves in, that's something to just really focus in on and lean in on and make sure that we don't take that for granted. That is very intentional work, very necessary work. And I'm proud of everyone that's on this call for having a hand in helping to support the lives of our children. So thank you for this time. Thank you, Rayana and Satoria, for your phenomenal comments and for being awesome parents. Thank you for all of the homeworks team. And again, thank you for all of your involvement, all the questions and comments. I'm going to turn it over to Catherine now for a few closing words.
Yeah, thank you. Also, big heartfelt thanks to Satori and Rihanna. Really, really grateful for speaking from the heart and sharing your stories for us. It means a tremendous amount to have you here in this community with us. And yes, I am the Director of Development, so I gotta do a shout out to our donors here, who I see many of you on this call right now. Some of you might not know, but Homeworks is 100% donor funded, 100%. So everything you heard tonight is possible because of supporters that fund this work. So big round of applause to our donors. If you're new to Homeworks, we invite you to join the village that you heard about many times here on this call. The support we help build around school communities is transformational. I hope that came through really clearly here tonight. If you've been with us for a while, we also hope you'll consider going deeper with us, especially now when there is a lot of need in our school communities. Here at Homeworks, we're in the midst of budget planning, which is very fun. Just kidding. And we're also finalizing our school roster for next year. So what we raise in the next 2 months, specifically by June 30th, is going to influence and shape how many schools that we can say yes to in the next school year. So we invite you to kind of take an active role in shaping what that looks like. And the good news is that there is a wonderful opportunity this week, Give STL Day on Thursday, May 8th. Early giving is open now. Let me go through my slides here. We have nice QR code if you want to go over to our page and check it out. There's some more information if you're curious about how the program works, and here's some testimonials and see some more data. Truly, like I said, we're in the midst of budget planning, so this is cliche, but I mean it. Every dollar counts. I think we're feeling that very hard right now. So we'd love to have you kind of celebrate Give STL Day. We also have some links if you would prefer to just donate on our website. You can go ahead and scan this QR code or visit our link tree. And also, if you want to stay connected, I believe Kelsey is dropping some messages in the chat. I would love to help set up a time with our new CEO, Ashli, or our amazing Director of Program Operations, Katrina, if you want to bring Homeworks to your school community. You can also follow us on social media. Sign up for our emails. There you can find out ways to stay involved with what we do. But as Constance said, thank you so much for being a part of this community tonight and sharing in community with us. We're glad you're here. And with that, I will turn it back to Constance.
All right, thank you, Catherine. And we're going to actually just wrap up. Continue the conversation, continue to work, continue to tell the great story of our awesome children, our awesome parents, our connections through Homeworks. Can't wait to get back together again to talk about more success stories and how we're continuing to grow. Have a wonderful rest of the evening. Be safe and be nice. Be nice. Talk to you later. Take care.